Today we are taking a deep dive into one of the most iconic factions in the Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War series, the Imperial Guard. Known for their overwhelming numbers, heavy armor, and unshakable discipline, the Guard are a faction that rewards patience, positioning, and combined arms tactics. In this guide, we'll break down their gameplay mechanics, units, structures, and upgrades that you'll want to familiarize yourself with if you want to lead the Emperor's Hammer to victory. So strap in, Commander, because the Guard doesn't win with finesse, they win with firepower. The Imperial Guard, officially known as the Astra Militarum, are the backbone of the Imperium's war machine. They are ordinary humans, armed with guns and faith, standing against the horrors of the galaxy. In Dawn of War, this translates into a very thematic playstyle. Weak individual infantry, but overwhelming firepower when massed together. Fragile early game units, but devastating tanks and artillery later on. If Space Marines are the Emperor's scalpel, the Guard are his sledgehammer. One of the things that makes the Imperial Guard so interesting in Dawn of War isn't just their units, but their unique mechanics. And if you don't learn to use them, you are leaving half of the Guard's power on the table. First up is the building garrison mechanic. Unlike most factions, your Guardsmen can actually enter buildings like infantry commands, listening posts to fire out of them. This gives them extra protection while still letting them dish out damage. It makes defending choke points and critical locations much easier, and it is also a great way to keep fragile units alive in the early game. Next, the tunnel system allows the infantry to use command buildings and listening posts as transport hubs. That means if you've got a Guardsman squad at your base and another out on the front lines, you can redeploy between any of your networked buildings. It's a lifesaver for reinforcing, responding to enemy attacks. Think of it as the Guard's answer to mobility when defending. Then there's the command squad attachments. The Imperial Guard are fairly unique in that their command squad is basically a hero unit that you can use to draft further assisting special units to the squad. Want a morale-breaking Psyker? Done. Need a Commissar to maintain squad morale? Add him in. Or stack priests to turn some squads into a melee wrecking ball. And of course, we can't forget the execute mechanic itself. This is the Commissar's signature ability. You literally shoot one of your own Guardsmen to instantly restore morale and give the squad a huge damage boost. It's brutal, it's thematic, and it's incredibly powerful when used at the right time. Finally, there's the Guard's defensive structures. Turrets and bunkers aren't unique to the Guard, but the way they integrate with your playstyle is. The Imperial Guard can be the most defense-focused army in Dawn of War. Layered turrets, fortified listening posts, and garrisoned bunkers make your bases feel like fortresses. The defensive backbone buys you the time you need to tech up to your late-game tanks and artillery. So in short, the Imperial Guard's unique mechanics generally boils down to three main areas: mobility through tunnels, survivability through garrisons, and flexibility through squad building and weapon upgrades. If you master these, you'll unlock the Imperial Guard's full potential. Alright, now, let's dive into the meat of the Imperial Guard's roster. The Techpriest Enginseers are your builders and your repair crews. Keep them alive, because once your tanks hit the field, you can use Enginseers to patch them up. They are legendary builders from the Adeptus Mechanicus, and can repair units more quickly and efficiently than builders of other factions. Their exoskeletons allow them to take more punishment than other builder units also. The backbone of your military, of course, is the humble Guardsman squad. They are cheap, they are fragile, and honestly, they'll die in droves if you're careless. But don't underestimate them. With enough numbers, with cover, and especially with upgrades and attachments, they turn into a serious long-range threat. Think of them as a blank canvas. You can give them more squad members, add a leader in the form of a sergeant, equip them with grenade launchers or plasma guns, and even give them a Commissar or Psyker to join the squad. With all these options, they scale nicely into the mid-game. Like nearly all of the infantry for the Imperial Guard, they are trained in the infantry command. Now, let's take a closer look at these special hero units, starting with the command squad hero. He's incredibly flexible. On his own, he's decent. but once you start attaching support characters, that's when the squad shines. But before we talk about adding units to join him, once you've upgraded your field command structure, which is your headquarters, to the regimental command, the command squad hero can call in airstrikes with the strafing run ability. To support the command squad hero, you can add in a Commissar, a Psyker, or even a Priest, but you can only add 2 of the 3 of these to fill out the squad, unless you get some upgrades, which we'll talk about later in the video. The Commissar is great for morale boosting leadership, as well as improving the squad's hit points. Commissars are pretty much mandatory for Guardsmen, not just because of the morale boost, but because of the infamous executability. This ability allows one squad member to be sacrificed in order to instantly restore morale and boost firepower. The Psyker support unit can be added that detects infiltrated units, increases the hit points of the squad, and also brings 3 activatable abilities to be used. The first of which is Strip Soul, that unleashes a wave of deadly psychic energy on the mind of the target. Unleashing such terrifying psychic powers damages the morale of the Psyker, however, and any squad that he's attached to. It's an ability best used against powerful hero units, but you might also need to read the small print. Apparently, there is a small chance of the ability backfiring and killing the Psyker himself, which of course is less than ideal. Once the field command, which is your headquarters, is upgraded to the battle command, this Psyker will also then be able to use the Lightning Arc ability, which is a devastating attack targeting whole squads. It's an attack that has its damage scaled according to the squad size. He will then also be able to unleash the Curse of the Machine Spirits, which temporarily immobilizes target vehicles and deactivates its weapons. Priests are there to inspire squads to fight courageously, adding hit points, morale, and damage output to these squads. The Priest does have his own ability as well, called Fanaticism, which sends the squad into a frenzy, making the whole squad immune to damage when in this frenzied state. In order to be able to use this ability, however, you will have to have the Regimental Command add-on for your headquarters, your field command. With all these options, this squad can be your early game anchor and can scale into the late game as a disruptive force. The Commissars, Priests, and Psykers can be trained to join the command squad leader directly, but can also be trained from the field command, your headquarters, so that they can be attached to other infantry squads also. Having said this, the Commissars can be trained from the basic field command, although for the Priests and Psykers, you will need the Telepathica and Ministorum temples respectively as add-ons to the field command. Now moving on to the heavy weapons teams, they are the Guard's answer to specialized threats. Set them up and deploy them with autocannons to rip up light vehicles and heavy infantry, or las cannons to deal with enemy vehicles. They are static of course when deployed, so position them carefully, but when they are entrenched, they can be brutal. Now let's talk about the infantry elites. In tier 3, you unlock the Kasrkyn, and these are your elite commando units. Like the Guardsmen squads, you can add a sergeant to the Kasrkyn, who are your go-to infantry when Guardsmen start to fall off, dealing high damage at long range. Plasma-equipped Kasrkyn can chew through heavy infantry, while grenade launcher-equipped Kasrkyn are perfect for disruption. They also have incendiary grenades at their disposal that can do some decent damage to vehicles and buildings. And then of course, there are the Ogryns. Big, beefy, close combat monsters, they are perfect for tying up enemy ranged squads or smashing through fortified lines. Stick a priest with them to increase their damage output, morale, and hit points, and suddenly they are a bringer of beastly melee damage. Now one last infantry unit, which is actually made from the field command once you have the final tier of upgrade, is called the Assassin, an infiltration unit equipped with a long-range sniper rifle that can kill most infantry units with one shot. His Assassination Scope activatable ability allows the Assassin to temporarily increase his range, making him really effective against infantry and especially enemy hero units. Alright, now, On to the vehicles. Just as the Imperial Guard has a dedicated structure to make infantry, it too has a dedicated structure to call in vehicles. However, to make this structure, you'll first have to upgrade your field command with the Battle Command add-on. This structure to make the vehicles is called the Mechanised Command. Once it's built, you'll have access to the Chimera. This is your transport vehicle. It's invaluable for mobility, but more importantly, it lets you reinforce squads on the front lines, which is a huge advantage in extended battles. Another little interesting feature for the Chimera is that infantry that are garrisoned inside can fire out through firing ports. Now, in order to make other vehicles, you'll have to pay for depot add-ons for your Mechanised Command. So for example, you'll need to add on a Sentinel depot to be able to make Sentinels, and a Hellhound depot for making Hellhounds. You get the idea. Speaking of Sentinels, these are fast, light walkers that are great for harassing enemy strategic points and even uncapping them. Whilst they are effective against aircraft and vehicles, they are not particularly tanky themselves, so do not throw them into the meat grinder. In the right hands, they are an incredible harassment tool, especially around enemy strategic points. Then we have got the Hellhound, one of my favorites. It's a flame-spewing tank designed to obliterate infantry in cover. If your opponent is massing light troops or turtling behind defenses, the Hellhound will flush them right out. It's a really good unit to be able to get out early if you are being bombarded with Tier 1 infantry aggression. One of these Hellhounds will soon solve these kinds of problems. If or when you upgrade your field command, your headquarters, with the Regimental Command add-on, the Hellhound will have a Let It Burn ability that allows you to set the ground around the Sentinel in flames, causing the units within the flame to be absolutely scorched. Next, we have got the Basilisk, a long-range heavy artillery that punishes infantry and buildings with a heavy area of effect damage. Basilisks are relatively fragile if caught, but as long as you keep them screened and protected, they'll pound enemy bases and fortifications from halfway across the map. What makes the Basilisk truly terrifying is its Earthshaker round ability. It isn't just a regular shot, it's a massive, high damage shell with enormous area of effect damage. When it lands, it deals brutal damage to infantry while also knocking units flying and breaking up formations. It's perfect for breaking turtle defenses, forcing enemies out of cover, or setting up a big push. Just remember, with a relatively high cost of 200 requisition and 200 energy, you'll need to make every shot count. Oh, and don't forget, there is friendly fire. The moment your opponent hears the Earthshaker shell whistling through the air, they know they can't sit still, and that's exactly how the Guard like it. Now, to get to the real armor, you'll need to upgrade your field command, your headquarters, with the Regimental Command add-on. Once you have, you'll unlock two main things related to vehicles: the ability to add on the Marauder depot and get the full-scale war technology upgrade. The Marauder is your air superiority and long-range strike craft. It's expensive, but it brings incredible firepower, especially with bombing runs that can devastate all ground targets. If it's allowed to operate freely, the Marauder can dismantle enemy bases in minutes. The Marauder comes with 3 distinct types of payload, and knowing when to use each one is what makes the unit truly shine. First up, the incendiary bombs. These are essentially firebombs that can blanket the ground. They deal immediate damage on impact, but more importantly, they leave a persistent area of effect damage that continues to burn. This makes them perfect for area denial. If the enemy is holding a choke point or sitting in cover, drop an incendiary run, and suddenly that position becomes a death trap. Next are the crack bombs. This is your dedicated anti-armor payload. Crack bombs hit hard against vehicles, buildings, and fortified positions. If you're facing Space Marine Predators, Chaos Defilers, Necron Monoliths, or even enemy super heavies, a well-timed crack bomb run can strip huge chunks of health in seconds. They also shred turrets, making them invaluable for softening up an enemy base before your ground forces can push in. And finally, we've got the smoke canisters. These don't actually deal damage, instead, they provide cover and concealment for your forces. Any units standing in the smoke take reduced range damage. This is incredibly powerful when you are trying to move Guardsmen or Ogryns across open ground, or if you just want to shield your tanks during a push. It's not flashy like fire or crack bombs, but it can win fights by keeping your units alive long enough to do their job. Taking things even further, as we mentioned, the Regimental Command add-on for your headquarters also gives you access to the full-scale war technology. This in turn gives you access to the Leman Rust depot and being able to construct the Mars pattern command structure. The Leman Rust battle tank is the Guard's workhorse. Durable, versatile, and well, it hits like a truck. Once you reach tier 3, you should almost always be building these, as they can form the core of your late game army. And finally, the big one, the Baneblade, the Emperor's Hammer. When this rolls onto the battlefield, the entire flow of the game changes. It's massive, it's bristling with guns, and it soaks up more punishment than almost anything else in the game. With Enginseers repairing it and infantry screening it, the Baneblade is often the final word in a match. To get to it, however, isn't particularly easy. Having the Regimental Command add-on for your HQ and the full-scale war technology researched isn't enough. You will also need to have built the Mars pattern command structure and have also captured a relic from the map. So to sum it up, the Imperial Guard's roster is all about synergy. No unit carries the faction on its own, well except maybe the Baneblade, but when you layer Guardsmen with Commissars, tanks with Enginseers, artillery with screening units, that's when the Guard becomes unstoppable. Now, whilst we have already covered most of the structures that can and well need to be built by the Imperial Guard, there are a few that we still need to talk about. First up, the Listening Post. Just like many other factions, you need to build these on captured strategic points to generate requisition. But for the Imperial Guard, listening posts are extra important because they are also part of the tunnel network. That means they are not just economy structures, they are also transport hubs. And with upgrades, listening posts can be made to get even more requisition and also be fortified with turreted weapons. This makes them strong defensive towers that can anchor your front line. A fortified Imperial Guard map can feel like a fortress, with every listening post doubling as both income generators and a bunker. The plasma generator is your basic power structure. The Imperial Guard are pretty power hungry. Between vehicles, infantry upgrades, and research, you will sometimes need more power than you think. Build plenty of these early, and don't be afraid to queue them up in safe spots behind your lines, as well as upgrade them. If the map has critical locations, you'll want to build the Thermo plasma generator. It is built on a slag deposit, and it produces a huge amount of power compared to a normal generator. Holding these points can sometimes decide late game battles, because the Guard vehicles like the Leman Rust and the Baneblade cost a fortune in power. Now, let's talk about the Tactica Control, because this is where the Imperial Guard truly transform from squishy humans into a disciplined war machine. The Tactica Control is packed with upgrades, and if you don't research them, your army can fall behind rather quickly. I won't go through into massive details about these upgrades because really you can just have a look and read them. And just don't underestimate the need to actually read them, because if you don't know which ones exist, you won't think about getting them during the games. But what I would say is that the Tactica Control upgrades cover most angles, whether it be morale, health, armor, accuracy, weaponry, elite buffs, and even stealth. Getting the relevant upgrades for your match is definitely something you will not want to ignore and neglect. Now, the heavy bolter turrets are your main static defenses structure, and the Imperial Guard can lean on them heavily. A single turret can lock down a strategic point in the early game, giving your Guardsmen a safe zone to fall back to. As you tech up, You can upgrade these into missile turrets, which provide powerful anti-vehicle and anti-air firepower. And lastly, we have the Minefield. The Imperial Guard are one of the very few factions with access to dedicated minefields. They are incredibly powerful when placed on choke points, relics, or enemy approach routes. Mines don't just deal damage, they also disrupt formations, buying you time for your ranged squads to gun enemies down. One of the Imperial Guard's best utility tools is the long-range scanner. With this ability, you can reveal a section of the map anywhere that you choose. It's especially deadly when paired with the Basilisk Earthshaker round or the Marauder bomber. Scan the enemy base, line up your artillery or bombing run, and you'll devastate them before they even know what hit them. So now let's take a look at some of the build orders that I have for you for the Imperial Guard. In fact, I have two of them. The first of them is a kind of more of a standard one. We start off with Guardsmen, add in some commando heroes, the Commissar, get those strategic points. The second build order is going to be a fast Nades build. Essentially, you want to get the Guardsmen, but be able to upgrade them with grenade attachment weapons. And that's really good at dispersing enemies because it gets rid of their formation and it can cause all sorts of trouble. So let's start off with the first build order, which is a bit more standard. As soon as we enter the game, we queue up 2 Guardsmen and then a Techpriest Enginseer. The Techpriest Enginseer goes ahead and builds the infantry command quite close to the strategic point in fact, and that's very purposefully done. We then queue up the plasma generator, but essentially the reason why we're placing it so close to the strategic point is because the Imperial Guard, of course, can use the infantry command as a bit of a garrison for your Guardsmen and an extra bit of defense. So the first of the Guardsmen comes out to capture the strategic point, of course, and then essentially we're just waiting for the second Guardsman to pop out to go to the other strategic point. Bear in mind, with the infantry command, we will be kind of waypointing it to the third strategic point, because we will then get the commando unit. There we go. Going to queue them up as soon as we can, the command squad, and then also queue up the Commissar from your field command, the HQ. Now, once you have captured that strategic point, the Guardsman goes to the third point. The Techpriest Enginseer that was building the plasma generator actually goes to build the listening post. That's really important because you want to prioritize the listening post. Bear in mind anyway, the second Techpriest Enginseer that came out of the field command went to go and build the plasma generator. I know it's a bit crazy, but there's lots going on there, but once you've kind of looked at it a few times, you'll see what's happening. The second Guardsman squad is going to go to another strategic point, or I think that's actually a critical point. It is what it is. And there is the command squad hero. And with him, by the way, we are going to be going for the priest. The reason for that is because he's really good at melee, disrupts your enemy's formations, allows your Guardsmen to get some good range attacks. Now, with the listening post, we're actually going to be upgrading that, but we do need to wait for the 60 energy. So there it is, we're going to be upgrading that listening post, and then we're also going to be building another listening post on the secondary strategic point. Now from here on out, really what we're looking to do is to maybe even put pressure on the map, but essentially in terms of macro-wise, we are aiming for 165 requisition, because we will be looking to place down our second plasma generator. It's really important that we do that because we will need power pretty quickly in this build, especially if you want to follow up with tech up to tier 2, all the rest of it. So there we go, 165 requisition. Then we place the foundations for the second plasma generator. And then from here, what we can do, we can actually start to improve our Guardsman squad. We're going to right click on that control queue, that sort of adding in more models, more units into the Guardsman squad, for both of them, by the way. And that will give us a really nice opening here on this map, in this build order. Going to continue to capture those critical points as we can. The next step really is to upgrade our second listening post to a fortified position. Again, that's going to give us plenty of requisition. So we've done that. You can see already we've just pretty much spent everything we've got. Really good macro there, and we're in about sort of 3 minutes into the game. And that's it, guys. That's the opening of this build order. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. You can probably follow this strategy up with a fast tech up to tier 2, because ultimately, as the Imperial Guard, you really want to tech up to the late stages of the game, where you can kind of often obliterate anyone. Another option would be to go for the Tactica Control building so that you can get grenade upgrades or plasma gun upgrades for your Guardsmen, but of course, eventually, you'll want to tech up to tier 2. But don't forget, I had 2 build orders that I wanted to show you, and so let's get on to the second one, which is the fast Nades build. So first of all, we queue up 2 Guardsman squads, a Techpriest Enginseer and another Guardsman squad. and we're going to be building the Tactica Control building right off the bat with the initial Techpriest Enginseer. Then we get the Plasma Generator, and the first Guardsman, of course, will be coming out to get the strategic point. Now, the idea of this build order is to get essentially 3 Guardsman squad fully kitted out, fully upgraded with some of the grenade weaponry add-ons, so that we can do a lot of damage. Now, the second of the Guardsman squad obviously going to come out for the second strategic point. And we're going to shift queue them, by the way, to the next strategic point or the next critical point so that the Guardsmen just automatically go. We get, ready as much as we can. There we go. So once the Tactica Control has been built, by the way, we'll need to instantly queue up the grenade weaponry add-ons. We're going to get it twice for the first of the Guardsman squad and once for the secondary Guardsman squad. And then we'll just need to wait for a bit more power to come on in. So the next unit that comes out from the field command will be your Techpriest Enginseer, who's going to build the listening post on the very first strategic point that we took. Now, the third of the Guardsmen is going to come out to one of the critical points and capture that. Now, bear in mind, once you get the extra bit of power, energy that you can, as soon as you can afford the grenade upgrades, you just continue to click more, right? And just keep doing that. So once the plasma generator has been built, you will then get a bit of a pumping of energy. So do exactly that. Queue up the grenade weaponry add-ons and continue to capture your points. So the next step really is to get the next listening post. So we need to wait for 100 requisition for that. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. And we're going to be sticking with that for now, really. Just getting 2 listening posts, because the next batch of requisition will be going to build the plasma generator. Relatively expensive, 165 requisition, but we do need power later on in the stages of the game. And we're getting our Guardsmen pretty well kitted out. Bear in mind, once you do have the actual foundations placed for the plasma generator, then we can actually look to either upgrade our models in terms of our units, or even just upgrade our listening post. But yeah, we're definitely going to want to get that generator first. So we're not going to push it there too much. Those Necron warriors coming out, kind of scary. So there's our generator. And from here then, what we can do is, I think at this point, we're just going to increase our reinforcements, because we can see the Necron warriors are out. So don't want to be too greedy. Eventually, we will want to upgrade our listening post, but for now, let's get the sergeants for the Guardsman squad and go for a nice timing attack. So now, once we hit sort of 2 minutes 30 seconds, we should have got the strategic points we want and also the critical points, and we would have had the second of the plasma generators starting to be built. Now's the time we group up together and maybe put a bit of pressure on. Now, in preparation for this timing attack, on the reinforcement icon, we actually right-clicked on it so that we can just continue to get those reinforcements. But of course, once we do bank up a bit of requisition, we can upgrade our listening posts. But here's a really cool idea here. We can extend our vision by using the ability from our field command. Because we've got the Tactica Control, we've got this long-range vision ability we can deploy on the map, as you saw, and basically the way this works is that the Guardsman with the grenade weaponry does have a really long range of attack, more than its actual line of sight, which is what it can see. So if we can increase the line of sight, you could really maximize and actually use the full length of the range of attack for those grenade weaponry. So something really interesting to think about here as well is that we don't actually have any commissars. It's kind of important to preserve the morale of your troops, but what we can also do is think about getting some upgrades from the Tactica Control. So there's kind of 3 decision points here. You can either upgrade your listening posts, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go for the macro approach, or you could have actually got some commissars from your field command to add to the squads that you have, or you could have got some upgrades here. Here we go. Death before dishonor from your Tactica Control. That will help with the morale. We actually queue that up next. And so now we are rocking and rolling. We've got a great economy behind this. Just bear in mind, once you have got your upgrades, once you have got your commissars out, once you have upgraded your listening posts, then you can think about maybe going for tier 2 or maybe adding in infantry command. To be honest, you probably want to add in an infantry command because you're going to need one, but more importantly, you want to increase the population capacity that you have as well. But here we just harass, we annoy, we do as much economic damage as we can, and we're in a good position. And so that wraps up our deep dive into the Imperial Guard in Dawn of War Definitive Edition. From Fragile Guardsmen and Commissar Discipline to Basilisk Earthshakers, Marauder bombing runs, and of course, the mighty Baneblade. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this breakdown, make sure that you hit the like button. More importantly, subscribe to the channel for more guides like this and also build orders as well as casted games. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, make sure that you give the video a thumbs up. A very special shout out to the YouTube channel members. Thanks for the extra support. And of course, if you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure that you are subscribed. More importantly, that you hit the notification bell, because that will give you a bit of a ding dong when I do upload the next video. As always, I appreciate your support. On the end card on your screen right now will be a playlist for all of my guides for Dawn of War Definitive Edition. Take care, and see you next time.